What feels like a make or break fight coming up this weekend at women's strawweight, and you heard that right. We have the Canadian transplant from Romania, Diana Belbita, the Warrior Princess. She's taking on Fusion XL's Hannah Goldy. Her nickname's 24K. Can she make it work?
Is she 48% of Danige?
Maybe. I don't know.
That's the first thing that came to my mind.
Let's see what happens. But for Hannah Goldy, 5-1 the overall record. If you've seen her fight, you know how good her striking is. In and out, a lot of volume, a little bit of power there to boot. Now, the thing that you might not like if you do look at Goldy's overall body of work, she debuted against Jillian Robertson back in 2016 and beat her. That's great. Then she took on Vanessa Grimes. She wins that fight. Lisa Blaine, Shannon Gary, and then Kaylee Robbins on Contender Series. And then had a very short layoff and took on Miranda Granger. Lost that fight. She's been out for almost 2 years. Now, it's not for lack of trying. She was booked against Loma Lookboonmee earlier on this year. Goldy withdrew. She was supposed to take on Jessica Penne, but she tested positive for COVID. And then she withdrew from their second booking a little over a month after that. So hopefully Hannah Goldy's recovered well. And like I said, she's taking on the transplanted Romanian to Canada, who now trains out of Ontario's Stony Creek, in Diana Belbita. Billed as a striker. Former K1 champ over in Europe. She was a multinational champion over there. Transitioned to mixed martial arts at the young age of 18. Maybe not the strongest level of competition on the way up. She had a little bit of a 2-fight losing streak in 2015. But that's a long ways behind her. She lost to Ariane Lipsky on the regional scene. She also lost to Ione Razafierzin, a name that we see a lot popping up on European fighters' records. Went on a 4-fight win streak, ended up in the UFC, lost to Molly McCann, pretty well got dominated in that fight, lost to Liana Jojua, and she looked like she was lost in that fight.
She really did. She didn't look good at all. And I'm honestly going to throw myself under the bus before I say anything else about this video, because I openly said that Liana Jojua is one of the worst grapplers I've ever seen in the UFC. And that was true up until that point, and that was kind of why her submission loss to Jojua was so surprising. I'm not here to tell you that Diana Belbita is some phenom on the mat or anything, but I definitely did not think that she was going to get out-grappled so soundly by Jojua. And we had seen Jojua understandably up a weight class, but still, we saw her struggle, I should say, grappling against the Sarah Morrises of the world, who, you know, she's a good fighter, but she's not a great fighter. And here, I'm going to quote Ryan Russillo when he talked about Kawhi Leonard and his free agency when I think about this fight. If anybody tells you they have a good idea about this fight, then don't listen to them when they break down fights, because there's just such a limited sample size about both these fighters against top levels of competition. Belbita has not really shown that she's able to go out there and really win rounds off of great fighters, even good fighters. Go back through a record. A lot of those losses, a lot of the wins are to the 0-0s of the world, or the 1-0s, the 0-1s. Ariane Lipsky is one of the few good fighters on her resume, and look how that fight ended. She did lose that fight by armbar. It's really weird that this fight is even on this card, for being completely honest, and I don't like saying that people aren't UFC caliber. It's just when these two fighters haven't really given any reason as to why they should be on this card, it's really surprising. I know we both said that Hannah Goldy was almost like a more improved version of Miranda Granger going into that fight, but leaving that fight, I definitely didn't have that opinion, and it was really weird because a lot of the strengths that we both assumed Goldy would have leading up to that fight, they weren't really strengths. She's undersized for this division. I don't really like her in and out movement as much as I thought I would. And at the end of the day, I just don't really know what she's going to be able to do against a lot of these fighters to prove that she's better in a 15-minute contest.
Now, that's the trouble. So you got to pump the brakes a little bit, and we have to process all of this. Goldy went up to 125 to take on Granger, who is a 25er. So that's why that one was really weird. Granger had a big size advantage. The same can be said. Jojua moved down from 35 to 25 and ends up beating Diana Belbita.
She is a 25er, though.
Belbita is a 25er who's now moving down to strawweight to take this fight against Goldy. So I'm eager to see both of these two on the scales. Obviously, if you've seen anything from Hannah Goldy, it's the fact that she's bodied up. And listen, I don't need James Lynch to tell you about her OnlyFans. It's out there too. It's a really tricky fight when you're trying to cap it. So, it's a really big... It's a big use of CYA on our parts, but listen, not every time you can get Malcolm Gordon to beat Francisco Figueiredo and say, hey, you gotta watch out for this one, and then people are telling you that you're a fucking idiot on Twitter. So, pump the brakes there a little bit, but when we have a look at the odds for this one, that's what scares me as well. Goldy opened to minus 195, she's now minus 182, a favorite, and for Diana Belbita, the underdog, she opened to plus 160, she's at a plus 148. Like I said, she has a striking background, she's looked good in the clinch in some of her regional scene fights. I'm eager to see what kind of a game plan she implements in this one, because it felt like she was too confident in the clinch in her last time out. and it cost her.
It's just wild that you have to say, oh, she looked good in the clinch and regional fights for us to say, oh, this could be a strength of hers coming into the UFC. And she hasn't shown anything in her last 2 fights. Molly McCann is a decent fighter, but not a great fighter in this weight division, or in this weight class, even at 125. Like, we kind of know where her limitations are skill-wise, and she beat the brakes off Belbita. Like, that wasn't a very competitive fight at all. And again, the fact that Joshua, who is an all-right grappler in top position, was just able to run through Belbita, it just doesn't give me a lot of confidence with her moving forward. And it's not like Hannah Goldie's shown me a lot either, but I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm more confident with the limited skills of Hannah Goldie than I am with the skills of Belbita at this point in time.
Belbita coming in with a big reach advantage and a decent little advantage as well in terms of the height. If we have a look over on Topology for the total votes, 507 so far, 78% with Goldie, 88% by decision. For the 22% that have Belbita, 73% by decision. I think if you like the over 2.5 here, the fight to go the distance, it's not just those Topology votes, but if you look at it for Hannah Goldie over her career, she has 1 finish win. For Diana Belbita, she has only 3 decisions, but so far in the UFC, 1 decision against Molly McCann, and then the quick loss to Liana Jojua, the forever grappler. Hannah Goldie, not so much a grappler, more of a death by 1,000 cuts. So for me, I like the decision pick, but if my back was against the wall and Matt likes me to make a pick, I'm going to go with Hannah Goldie, but again, maybe not the most confident. I think the volume's going to play out in her favor in this fight. For Diana Belbita, going to have to close the distance, which is going to sound strange because she is the bigger, longer fighter. But it's the side-to-side movement of Hannah Goldie, always working that footwork in her fights that you like to see. So for those reasons, I'm going with Goldie. But if you can make a good argument for Diana Belbita, you let us know down below in the comments section.
I can't disagree with anything you said on this fight. Again, Belbita is going to have her opportunities, and if she can get this fight to the clinch consistently, then she might just be able to win minutes, which would then equal winning rounds. But other than that, I do think Hannah Goldie is going to be the one, at least in the middle of the cage. I do like her footwork slightly more than Belbita, and I do think she can at least avoid some of the strikes of Diana on the feet and at least retaliate with her own. So ever so slightly going to pick Hannah Goldie, but I think we've thrown up enough like red tape on this pick that I wouldn't put any money on this fight.
Both of us going with 24K Hannah Goldie to get the win. You're not going to want to miss the rest of the predictions for this card, Matt. Listen, we've got the junk food special. It's Reese's Pieces versus Dr. Pepper.
In the air.
People don't come here for the singing.
Try.
But you can come for 15-minute card breaks. It's also our channel. You can find a link to that below in the description. You're not going to want to miss any of the content for this week. So as we always say, Matt, with Fight Night Picks, let's get into it.